Sorry, it's loud.
Progress.
Thank you, thank you. So we have a quorum, and then I'm going to propose an additional item to add to the agenda under new business. The Charlottesville Elmore Airport has requested a letter of support and funding commitment in order to obtain matching grant funds to support the Charlottesville to Boston route. We've talked about that. And we have the CEO of the airport here, Jason Birch. The airport is going to apply for some grant funds they originally thought were going to be available in the summer, I believe, but they opened them up March 20th. So we had to accelerate this funding. So the deadline is May 4th. So I have a motion to move the authority amend the April 21st agenda to include an agenda item for the new business to consider action by the authority and request from the Charlottesville Airport Authority to provide a letter of support and matching funds for a grant application by the Charlottesville. Here, is there a second? Second. All right. We need a roll call. Really? All right. I vote aye. Director Johnson. Aye. Director Morrow. Director Morrow. Director Storm.
Aye.
Director Hood.
Aye.
Aye.
Director Cox.
Aye.
Director Medley.
Aye.
You got somebody?
No.
You have an extra one on the list?
I did somebody.
All right. Okay, there we go. The brewing.
Hmm.
All right. All right, so that's added to the agenda. Matters from the public.
I'd like
All right.
to comment. Where shall I do that?
You can, wherever you want.
Yeah.
Mr. Krebs.
Thank you. I have no cards, old
All right.
fashioned. Yeah,
You
So-
gotta read off your phone?
I know, right? So, yeah. Anyway, I'm Peter Krebs from the Piedmont Environmental Council. We protect the lands, airs, waters of the Virginia Piedmont while working to create strong, resilient, livable communities here in Charlottesville, Albemarle, and throughout the Piedmont region. Outdoor recreation accounts for $14 billion of economic activity in Virginia and supports 126,000 jobs in the state of Virginia. We don't have local numbers, but tourism accounts for $1 billion of local activity and more than 7,000 jobs. Those numbers might sound familiar to you. They're almost the same as what the Chamber said about the defense industry a few years ago. We all know what that unleashed, and I'd like to ask why we're not making similar investments in outdoor recreation and quality of life. Outdoor recreation drives spending, investment, business formation. It attracts new businesses and leads existing ones to increase their workforces. And of course, tourism itself attracts a lot of money to the region, which is significant. It also helps people live longer, healthier, more productive, and less stressful lives. It's the kind of people-focused economic development we all want. We know that fresh air is a driver of prosperity, and our local outdoor spaces are quite popular. It's consistently rated among Albemarle County residents' top priorities. We know that quality of life is good business, and AstraZeneca said so when they talked about why they relocated here, but it needs to be nurtured actively. This was the subject of our recent Active Mobility Summit, which some of you attended back in March at the Wolf Factory, an economic development success story, I might say. To succeed, we need a few things: focused leadership, investment, partnerships between government, nonprofits, and the business community, and it requires regional collaboration between the city, county, and UVA. I think that part's really important, right? And when people are here, they don't even know if they're in Albemarle or Charlottesville. And in fact, residents often don't know if they're in the county or the city. It's a strategy that really lifts up all three, city, county, and UVA. So I propose that this body call a joint meeting with your counterparts from the city. In fact, I was there just last week and said the same to them. And also be sure to pull in the relevant entities from UVA and whichever sections of UVA have outdoor rec as their, area of work. We could talk about that after if you want. This is meant to be the beginning of a conversation. Really, it's an invitation to actively work together in an approach to economic development that is focused on quality communities where everybody is healthy and prosperous. Thank you.
Thanks, Peter. All right. Anybody else to?
That's all.
Okay. Right, approval of the minutes. Anybody have any comments on the minutes from March 17th?
Move approval.
Second?
Aye.
Second. Right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Financial report.
Had a couple things. CVAC got their payment of 105,000 that's going out since last time we met. We sent out a round of bond invoices since last time we talked about, and we'll give a short shout out to Nikki Ward at Centara. We sent them their bond invoice and she had it paid in 11 minutes. Great. On top of it. And then we have another set of bond invoices going out on the 1st of May, and that's all I have.
Okay, for unfinished business, if we could get to the next slide. Included in your packet was the draft performance agreement for Penny's Imperfect Pizza, the APHID infrastructure grant that we discussed a few months ago, and the grant was awarded. So ultimately, all we need to do is execute the performance agreement that was shared. I think we had a resolution, but I'm not seeing it in front of me, so
Yeah, it's in the packets.
it's in the packet, okay.
So we had approved this.
It had been discussed and general support was.
No, but we didn't vote on it.
But ultimately, there wasn't anything in writing at that point, so this is just a
Okay.
going through that.
Are there any questions?
I wasn't here at that meeting where you discussed it, so I do have a question.
Okay.
Could somebody explain to me how this is economic development?
Sure, the agribusiness and food processing sector that we support is one of our top 3 sectors
Right.
in our strategic plan. So part of that process is to support the added value production of local farms that take their products and scale up and sell them. And this is ultimately a business that has gone through the process of setting up a farm, setting up an added value product, and they work with a local commercial kitchen, a co-sharing kitchen, to reduce their costs and ultimately produce in an area that has all the commercial kitchen setups, all the ovens and the shared use products, and they ship their value added products, these homemade pizzas. It's a pizza dough that they make from ingredients that they source locally and sell them at wineries and at farmers markets, and they have an online store. And essentially the Commonwealth found their product valuable enough to support their expansion project and to assist them purchasing equipment that was integral to their company's success. So the economic development factor is that it's a food processing company based in Albemarle County that pays taxes and create the product.
So it's not that we're supporting a retail establishment.
No, this is a farm producer, right? This is the the agribusiness food processing sector that we elected to focus on.
And we heard during the strategic plan process from a lot of our agribusinesses that being able to find different revenue streams to support the farm is really critical to their long-term ability to sort of maintain their farm. And so this company is one of those where the pizza business is helping to sort of keep the farm afloat. And this grant would help them get equipment that will allow them to produce more faster. We actually we were there earlier today at the shared use kitchen, the Beacon Hill kitchen. And they have three part-time staff that they have hired since.
Based on the grant awarded.
Yeah, to help them just produce more product faster.
It does sell at Feast. Anyone's another
Really tasty. My kids love it.
All right, any other questions? Comments? Motion on the,
But there's a roll call vote.
well, that.
We need
We need to have a motion.
Yeah.
So the
It was
motion
that.
to approve the resolution
Yeah.
that is in the packet.
I move that we approve the resolution approving the AFID infrastructure grant agreement between the Economic Development Authority of Albemarle County and Olive Branch Gardens LLC, doing business as Penny's Imperfect Pizza.
That's a great motion.
I second that.
To be a lawyer.
There any other questions or comments on it? Okay. Go with alcohol vote.
Yep, I'll go down. Joe,
Aye.
Director Johnson,
Aye.
Director Hood,
Aye.
Director Freeman,
No,
Director Metchnick,
Aye.
Director Cox.
Aye.
Director Storm.
Aye.
The Show Virginia Region 9 update.
Can I stand up there?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're
Is that okay? I like to be the center of attention.
Middle of the, yeah.
Why even use the podium there?
So let me make sure I'm taking care of my time here. I've got some information to leave with you guys when I go, if you're interested in it, but I'm very excited to share with you some updates of Virginia Wine Coalition. I'm going to approach this with the assumption that you know little to nothing. So some of this might be review for some of you, some of this might be new information. Some of you are old hats with our wine projects here. So I'm Matthew Brown, nice to see you. And I worked in the wine trade here in Virginia for 16 years. This August, I'm celebrating my 20th anniversary of being an Albemarle County resident. I'm now thinking about having a party. So what I've done over my career is learn sort of the ins and outs. I spent almost 11 years at King Finley Vineyards in Crozet. Started out pouring wine on the weekends and left as the general manager to start my own consulting business. And more exciting and more important to you now is that I'm 2 years into a 3-year project with Go Virginia, which the EDA has helped support this current implementation phase. And we were inspired by the Seatbelt BioHub model of creating, here's me as an economic development workforce person using the cliches I always hate to hear, but busting down the silos, which is so important. We have to do that. And it's been really great. We have a lot of different support organizations that are either volunteer run or underfunded, understaffed. And so there hasn't always been as much transparency and collaboration as we would like. And so the goal of the Virginia Wine Coalition has chiefly been to provide economic development support to help this cluster in Go Virginia Region 9 to scale up and need some wage growth, job growth, grow in the export market, which is an important part of the life cycle of a wine growing business. And I think how often I'm in a Go Virginia room and space, and I speak about all of our various localities that make up that, and then secretly, cut the camera feed secretly as an Albemarle County resident, and the fact that I've got a little over 50% of the wineries that I represent for Go Virginia Region 9 are actually in Albemarle County. So the Albemarle County wineries should be very thankful to Go Virginia for really putting up so much of that support in front of them. And we have so many different kinds of headwinds, and they're not headwinds that better marketing alone is going to do something for. And so we are working on a range of projects that go from, are you interested in knowing that there's never been a Virginia wine consumer research project before? It's the only business in the history of business that's never tried to ask the consumer what they're looking for. We did that last fall, which was really exciting. I'm working on a soon to be released cost of production calculator. Those of you that are business owners, particularly if you're in food and beverage, know how important understanding cost of production is. And it's something that I'll say embarrassingly, but widely, many of our winery owners have a good, what they think is a good guess, but they don't have an actual number. And so we're creating this resource guide to, number one, help people understand what is COGS, what is the cost of production. And not everyone knows that exactly. They think they do, but they don't. But then we've also built a really slick app. I'm a liberal arts grad who built an app thanks to AI. I feel very cool about that, which is helping them really calculate that number way and then provide some benchmarking so that, you know, some of our folks, much in the same way that in the workplace, we don't ask people how much money they make, our wineries aren't comparing notes on what they're spending to make this stuff. And I think some of them are going to have a rude awakening and finding out that, oh my gosh, I'm going around and thinking about a polite way to say this, but I think a lot of them go around their ass to get to their elbow. You come up with like a business version of that, I'm all ears. And so that's going to be a really cool, powerful tool that's coming out May 15th is when we'll be launching that, which is really exciting. We've also brought in some partners like Virginia Tourism. I looked at all of the sort of digital assets, we'll call it, that our various localities, DMOs, and BTC have been using to tell Virginia wine's story. And I found all of them to be terrible. And so we were able to get some grant funding from those organizations under the umbrella of the Virginia Wine Coalition. So that's somebody who, I'll say, knows what today's consumer kind of wants to see in their marketing. And we designed a really great campaign. It's called Toast Virginia. You can see that on our website. The links are here, and I'm happy to share that with you. And we've also developed a really cool front of house training, sort of a 1-2 punch front of house training program to train our staff. And you guys know that we're getting pretty close to $1 billion. Maybe we're already there of visitor spend. And so much of that is, are we providing good service? And so this front of house training is designed to make sure that not only are we providing good service, but we're also selling. And those two things don't always happen at the same time. You know, you have a good experience, but does somebody come in at the end of your good experience and give you the opportunity to provide your credit card to buy more things? And so that's what the front of house training is about. And the 1-2 punch piece to that is we pair that with a sort of secret shopper program, which is where we send out trained secret shoppers to go and then assess, was the front of house training successful? Are they providing good service? And then were they also trying to get me to buy more stuff while I was there in a way that the market research is showing really works? And so if you look at how many visitors we get, wine visitors, which if any of you are data nerds, you just go to the BTC website and look at wine visitors, and they spend way more than any other type of visitor. They stay longer as well. But if we got each of them to buy one more bottle of wine, I can retire tomorrow and I'm out of here. And so even like something that's like a light lift, like can we sell one more bottle of wine per visitor, would be an insane amount of economic stimulus for our industry in our region. And something else I think is really cool, and I'm having to remember it's safe to be Albemarle County focused, because sometimes our other friends get jealous and I can't always talk about how much I love Albemarle County. And so, but so much of this attention that Virginia wine gets is because of Albemarle. We were the wine region of the year, which was it's impossible to overstate how big of a deal that is. But we make up about 15% of the state's wineries, but we're regularly somewhere between 35 to 50% of the Governor's Cup wines. It's like the top 12 wines that are selected every year. Those wines are tasted blind. I am one of the judges. I can't say that I'm skewing the numbers, but we're basically punching 3 to 4 times above our weight class and how we show up in terms of the quality of wine that we're making in this area. I'm dressed like this today because I visited wineries today. I don't know if any of you have winery owning friends or friends that work in the wine trade, but last night's freeze event was catastrophic, ranging from maybe 10 to 20% loss to complete loss around our region. So some of these business owners are just really in a bad spot. And I don't know if you guys have noticed that 2026 hasn't been the easiest year. So to add that sort of insult to injury, which that to me was my little call of action. I wanted today to go and look at the sad faces, to be inspired to come in here today to say these guys really need all the love and support and help that we can really give them, because this is going to be an economic impact that will take a little bit to hit, right? Like they didn't lose all the money today, but it's over the next 12 months that's really gonna hurt. And the truth is, the amount of money that they're spending in order to make a much smaller amount of wine this year is basically going to be the same of what they would have spent to make all that other. So now all of a sudden my cost of goods project becomes even more important, helping try to find some cost efficiencies in there while keeping, of course, quality really high. And I have one more little comment I was going to share with you. That's going to come back to me later. But I'm excited to say that our relationship with Go Virginia has been really great. It's caused so much interagency collaboration and brainstorming. And I was on our region's workforce board as well, and got to present at the workforce symposium yesterday, talking about the challenges of our wineries that aren't always in easy places to get, and how it can be hard to hire and retain. Learning everything I can about Gen Z and how to keep them happy in our businesses. And so we're circling back now to put an application that will be a statewide application, collaborating with Go Virginia Region 9, as well as scooting over the mountain to Region 8, which is the Shenandoah Valley. And this time we're really focused on supply chain issues. So much of the stuff that we need to make wine doesn't come from Virginia or necessarily even the United States. And there's this top of mind is the fact that the Strait of Hormuz is open and closed 4 to 5 times a day in the last couple of weeks. And so we're going to be looking into ways that we can create a more robust supply chain that will help us bring cost of production down. And something that's really exciting. At some point you have to say, Matt, you've reached your time. You're going to stop me, right? Yeah, you were making eye contact.
You're at 10.
Great. Something that's really exciting is one of the things that we've done with the coalition is an industry speaker series. I did in Virginia Wine my entire adult life. It didn't do very much for my hairline, but it has always been the case that we don't have specific Virginia data. And I'm a data guy. My late mentor, David King, who was an attorney, always said, feelings don't hold up in court. He always wanted to see the data. So I love that kind of thing. And it's hard to come by, but one of the point of the industry speaker series was for us to not have the same old Virginia wine people in the same old room telling us the same old things. And so I really wanted to be able to bring outside people in to share their wisdom. And one of them is a mentor in my study program. She's a master of wine. She's based in California. Her name is Dr. Liz Tosh, and she's just a brilliant data nerd. Anyway, so she has this organization called the Wine Market Council. You don't really care about that. She does all these really great pieces of research. She went through, pulled out all this Virginia-specific data, which allowed us to learn that wine buyers in Virginia, which is not the same thing as Virginia wine buyers. So wine buyer people in Virginia who buy wine of whatever, they buy more of it and they buy more expensive wine. And so that to me perks my ears up. And so often in the past, we've heard Virginia wine is too expensive for what it is, those kinds of comments. And I think there was a time in the not too distant past where that was true. And while our costs of production have increased maybe 30+% since COVID, the prices of the wines have not increased at the same rate. And so we're starting to become more competitively priced. And we can just help some of these wineries just get through this little hurdle. I think the future of Virginia wine is really bright. I have nothing but reasons for optimism, even though if you just read the news, it's all bleak. But in the context of alcohol consumption being down, there's 2 really positive things behind that that never get talked about because that doesn't make you click the link. One is that disordered alcohol content, like alcoholism, is at an all-time low in this country. We should celebrate that. That's part of the reason why alcohol consumption is down. And number two is underage drinking is also at an all-time low, which is, I mean, I won't speak for myself, but I do think I do think that's also something that we should celebrate. And the good news is, as soon as they turn 21, they go right to the bar. So we get them back. But when we see that number of like, oh, nobody's buying wine anymore, when you really get into the data, that's actually not the case. And specifically in Virginia, they're spending more and more often. And if it's in the lens of a tourism moment, they're spending close to double what the average other type of visitor spends while they're here. And they're staying close to double the length of time. And they're almost always spending the night because they can't drive themselves back to wherever it is that they came from. So we have a unique way of getting the heads in beds moment sort of captured, which I think is really, really exciting. Does anybody have any questions?
Matthew, could you tell me just in general terms, how come when I walk into Harris Teeter, for example, there's a zillion California wines, and this is in Albemarle County?
Yeah.
And there's like 2 Virginia wines. So what's up with that?
What is up with that? That's a great question. So about 1 in 20 bottles of wine consumed in Virginia is made in Virginia, which is terrible.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of reasons for that. One of them is a lot of our winery owners are so busy working in their business and are working on their business. I say that all the time. It's one of my cliches I hate to hear myself say, but it's true. And so in order to build distribution, you have to, one, have somebody explain to you that there is quite a lot of value in that as part of a diversified business model. And it's not immediately intuitively profitable, that sort of thing. And so you sort of have to have somebody who's willing to sit down and open their mind and say, oh, when you look at the numbers this way, I now see that that's a line of business that I should be leaning into. People immediately just think, well, I get to keep my entire margin in the tasting room. And that's actually not true at all. It costs quite a lot of money to keep the tasting room open and on. And so once you sort of explain to people sort of like this sort of like price elasticity, volume, what might to some of us seem like business 101 that not a lot of these winery owners have, then they start to invest in that sort of thing. And part of the other challenge is that, I always think when everybody's in charge, nobody's in charge. And so we have a couple of industry organizations that are chiefly volunteer run. And that provides challenges because we're going to these already overtaxed business owners and asking them to, in their infinite free time, lead the charge on some of these things, which is why the coalition has been so helpful because, some of these things now it's like, oh crap, now it's my job to do that. But one thing that you should be doing is don't go to Harris Teeter anymore, go to Wegmans, because you know what Wegmans has? They have probably 50 feet of shelf space of Virginia wine, and they've become huge Virginia wine champions. But something that I've encountered with our grocery stores and with our restaurants, and I'm working on here locally, is they tell me nobody asks for Virginia wine. And so my comment to them always is, I don't ever come in here and ask for Chilean sea bass, but the waiter tells me that tonight's special is Chilean sea bass. And then I go, oh, I'll have the sea bass. So we have to start incentivizing the restaurants and the shops to tell our story first, because to me, it's just it's tragic and boring to walk in there and see oceans of California wine when we have really great stuff just around the corner. So we're chipping away at it. We are making a little bit of progress. And I'll share with you that year to date, October 2024 through October 2025, Virginia wine sales overall were down about 3.5%, but Virginia wine sales in distribution, while I've been out there pounding the pavement, were up 21%. And so it just really kind of proved the point of a little bit of pressure in the right places can really provide forward momentum, particularly in the context of tasting room traffic can only be what it can be. October is Virginia Wine Month. We get so much traffic. Everybody wants to come and see the leaves and but if you have a rainy October, that's over until next year. But if you're on the wine shelf at Wegmans, people are walking to Wegmans 7 days a week.
How much is the Go Virginia grant? When does it end? And how will you know if it's been successful?
Great questions. We're wrapping this up. This will be March next year is the end of our implementation grant. The budget was, don't quote me, but like 218,000-ish. And our sort of metrics that we're measuring include how Virginia wine sales and distribution have changed. It includes sort of the interaction between some of our resources, like the engagement that we get with this cost of production project, the engagement we get with our industry speaker series, the engagement that we get where we've set up a business directory with businesses that are willing to provide sort of like a free consultation. And something that I'm very excited about that I didn't include in my notes, so it's not quite fully baked. But I've spent the last year trying to find really meaningful, powerful, local financial and accounting support. And that I have not found that. And so we've reached out to some new connections we've made in California with the Silicon Valley Bank. And I would love for it to be a Virginia institution, but I just don't think that there's one that really fits the unique, really, truly fits the unique situation of our wineries. So really, we're going to be looking at the engagement with all these different services in terms of how many businesses have engaged and been served and have been improved. And we've done every year a benchmark survey to sort of do a temperature read on where people are and how that's changed over the years. And then, of course, there'll be a sleek report that I'll write at the end of all that.
Good question. Has there been any thoughts of having like a wine club or like a place where all these regional vineyards can sell their wine on one platform through the coalition that people can buy from that platform?
So that's not a bad idea on the surface. The way that the ABC regulations are so complex that the logistics of that are just one hair away from impossible, even though it's a great idea. And it's clear from ongoing conversations that we've had in Richmond that there's just zero appetite to do anything to make any of that easier, just because they don't have to. Asking them to do something that would be a lot of work for them when they really don't have to. But it's a great idea. Actually, there have been talks, which is somebody else's project, not mine, of doing something like what you are asking in DC, which is a major target market for us, both in terms of tourism and in terms of distribution.
Any other questions?
Yeah. I've also spoken to a winery and they complained about the fact that there's Virginia, there's a middleman, so to speak, that they cannot sell directly. For example, if they wanted to take their product to Costco, they're in Albemarle, want to take their product to Costco, they can't do it. They have to go through.
Distributor.
Pardon?
Distributor.
Yeah. That's it.
So
They
tell
can't.
us to call me because it's actually not true. Virginia is unique in the sense that we've built, unique in the country, an organization called the Virginia Winery Distribution Company that allows wineries to self-distribute. And it's something that literally may not exist anywhere else on earth. It lets them keep a wider margin because they're not having to make it profitable for the distributor to be the middleman. But it does add the logistical burden of now you need a van and a guy or a gal to load it up and take it to the Costco. So there is a mechanism for doing it. It is a little bit of work. I am one of the advisors behind the VWDC, and I would just so love for you to put me in touch so I can make that connection.
I would love to have their card. And the other thing, I did speak with a restaurant owner, and I asked them, I said, why don't you carry more Virginia wines? They said, because they're more expensive.
So,
about a year ago.
and I think that perception is becoming increasingly outdated, which puts the onus on us as an industry to bring the education up to where the reality is. And there is a little bit of gap between what people think they know and what's actually going on. And so that wheel of progress is turning. Because another sort of piece of this puzzle that is an unfunded part that just me as a door-to-door salesman trying to get the good word out there is most of our local restaurants, many of which I know the owners and I love and I go frequently, charge what should be an illegal margin on the wine, and trying to get them to understand, like, if you just bring that down a little bit, we're going to move so much more wine and you're going to make more money and people are going to have a better time. And it's pretty straightforward. When I know what wine spits it costs and I know all these prices, and some of the wine I see on the list, I think it's a retail bottle for $20 and you have it on the list for 85. I get that you need to charge more because it's being served to me, but that's silly. So yeah, we're working on that.
And we also, the EDA along with the Board of Supervisors also approved in the comp plan of under certain circumstances being able to have a restaurant in the rural areas connected with a winery.
Yeah. And that's huge because I think one of the challenges we've had leading up to this point has been, particularly in Albemarle County, has been excluding that food component. And if you look at the new consumer and how the marketing is going and what really resonates, it's wine in the context of food is what younger people really, they want that interplay. And if you look at, we've been making wine for probably 15,000 years. And for the first 14,980 of them, it was with food. And so it's, as an Albemarle County citizen and wine industry consultant, I would love for the Board of Supervisors to make that change. And I think it would be a win for everybody.
We did.
They did.
Yeah.
We did it.
It's in the comp plan.
It's in the comp plan.
There's an ordinance.
Yes, we have to come up with the ordinance and
That's so
that's,
necessary.
that's in things we'll be approving, hopefully to do sooner than later.
And I think that's just gonna end up being a win-win for everybody. Every time I see that bumper sticker, farmland lost is farmland lost forever. I always think to myself about the folks that sometimes aren't super happy about having a winery in the area. But then I often think about all the alternatives that could be there. And so part of the reason why I work so hard for them is farmland lost is farmland lost.
You'd mentioned Silicon Valley Bank and I think what we may not be getting here, those who don't follow the wine industry, is that while they do a lot of the banking for wineries in Napa and Sonoma in that area, it's the reports they generate and the research they do and the information that they put out that really also promotes those wineries. And is there some way, is there somebody locally we could, do you have somebody in mind that could fill that role locally for Region 9 or Albemarle County in particular?
So the head of the wine division of Silicon Valley Bank, his name is Marshall Graves. He's from Virginia. So he's very invested in our industry. And because of their access to their client list, again, I am born in Virginia, raised in Virginia, went to University of Virginia. I live in Virginia. I want so badly to be like, there is a Virginia answer. And I unfortunately think that after a year of exhaustive searching, while there are certain banks that have a number of Virginia winery clients, they don't provide what I would say is a complete, full, holistic service that's specific to the fact that we're growing something and we're manufacturing something and we're selling it in a very complex regulatory landscape. And we're also selling it 1 to 3 years after we've made it.
Mm-hmm.
And so all of a sudden we have this truly unique, completely nightmarish system that you only can really understand if it's something that you hyper focus and specialize in and doing for decades. And the same is true about accounting. And I've seen absolute butchery of winery accounting by very successful, well-known accountants who just don't have this totally bizarre, weird speciality. And so what we're going to be doing with the Silicon Valley Bank, again, please know how much it hurts me that it's not Virginia Valley Bank, is trying to build their Virginia presence so that we start getting more very clear, specific Virginia data. And they're very interested in being a strategic partner in this and have been working and supporting us. To me, it's a win, but I think it also might put a little pressure on some of our Virginia banks, local banks, if we start to grow a little bit more and become a lot bigger. And the true truth is, even a lot of the big national banks like Bank of America, others, they've been ditching winery clients because of how tough the business has become, and they've been increasingly unattractive to non-specialty financial institutions like SVB.
All right.
All right, that was way over my time.
Thank you so
All right,
much.
thanks.
Thanks for
Appreciate it.
listening.
All right. New business.
Hard to me. I'm gonna write my email down for you.
Yeah. So we've got Aunt Allison and Rebecca Kendall from Piedmont Virginia Community College with us to talk a little bit about the work that the really exciting work that they are doing to evolve PVCC's programming to sort of meet the workforce needs of the next couple of years, with a particular focus on the biotech life science space. And so I'll let Dr. Allison
For 20 years.
lead us through here.
Yeah.
Hi, good afternoon. As a Bostonian who's lived in Charlottesville for 30 years, I'm really excited about that flight. So thanks for having us here today. I'm going to stick to my script, and then I have 5 slides, and then I hope we have some time for more Q&A. So I'm the Executive Director of Biotechnology and Pharmaceutical Manufacturing at PVCC. And I want to describe today how PVCC is meeting this moment, especially in terms of our infrastructure, state-of-the-art training and education facilities, our programming, and also our personnel. So I think, as you know, Central Virginia's biosciences sector is entering a period of very rapid expansion. And that almost feels like I haven't said that strongly enough. The expansion is so big and so fast that I think it's really hard to stress that enough. And coming with that is going to require a significantly larger and more technically skilled workforce. So the recent Region 9 Talent Pathways report recommends strategies to increase awareness of bioscience careers, to expand our technical training, and to create coordinated transitions into university programming and industry jobs. So I want to tell you just a little bit about what my process has been. I've been in this position about a year. I've been in the life sciences for 30 years. I did my master's and PhD at UVA as a quick postdoc at Cal for 2 years, and then back to Virginia. Started my teaching career at Piedmont, and then 4 years at Mary Baldwin, and back to PVCC, where I am still today. So my process, just very briefly, has been to travel the entire state of Virginia, seeing all of the biotech and pharmaceutical manufacturing programs in the Virginia Community College system. I've been personally to every single one of those colleges. I've also been down to places like BTech at NC State and Raleigh, and some of the community colleges that do really good biotech in North Carolina, up to Maryland, specifically to Frederick and Germantown, Montgomery Community College. And then I have Zoomed with people in Massachusetts, Indiana, Texas, Washington State. Right, so Zoom is an amazing tool to talk to the best biotech programs in the country. I've also served on the steering committee of that Go Virginia Region 9 BioBridge Talent Pathways Initiative, and I'm currently on the steering committee for the VIPC VDP-led Advanced Pharmaceutical Manufacturing Group. So that's all sort of my quick background, where I'm coming at this from. And of course, we are coordinating very closely with industry partners. I just feel that my own career has been somewhat serendipitous. I worked with Martin Chapman, who leads Indoor Bio, back in 1999, and have just stayed in touch with him ever since. I went to school with Nikki Hastings. We overlapped at UVA. So I've really been in this world, I guess, for a long time, but as Piedmont comes again to meet this moment, we are ramping up our collaboration with companies like Afton, Agrospheres, Merck, of course, InBio and others. And I would be remiss if I didn't also mention Manning and UVA. They're both an educational partner, but also clearly an employer. Eventually, we hope to serve as many as 200 to 300 students a year. And I want to talk, if we could go to the next slide, I'll talk a little bit about the space that we need to do this in. So we need space that's going to serve the greater Albemarle area and help to continue to attract this industry and the related ancillary industries. There's a lot that will come with this push in pharmaceutical manufacturing and biotech. And so this state-of-the-art space needs to be modern, right? It needs to be durable and it needs to be somewhat flexible so that we have room to grow. I do want to point out that every single major biotech hub in the country, whether it's Boston, Research Triangle, San Diego, wherever you go where there's a major hub, they have at least one community college asset that really stands out, right? Something like a clean room for simulation work and pharmaceutical manufacturing, or a mock fill finish line. There's some physical training facility. BTech is a really great example. Wake Tech Community College has a training facility there. So I think that this is just super important. If we don't signal to AstraZeneca and to people who are already here, like Afton Scientific, the Manning, we don't show that we have this connection at the community college level, this training asset, then our area, I think, will struggle to continue to serve what we already have, what's coming, what could come. Okay, so we can go maybe just one more slide and you can see, did we skip? Oh, it skipped over. Wait, go back for just a second. Sorry, we'll go ahead. So we'll talk a little bit now about the industry tuned curriculum. So it's really important that we develop hands-on training. We do a really good job at this already. But this is going to be even more skills-based training than what we currently have. And it's going to be rooted in the bread and butter skills that every single company needs. So in all of my conversations with these companies, they need students and employees who have good documentation practices, right? Safety, 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 safety. You can't say that enough. Aseptic technique, professional communication. So these are like cornerstones of the curriculum, whether a student is in the biotech pathway or more specifically in the pharmaceutical manufacturing pathway. These will be some core skills that they walk away with. We are embedding industry recognized credentials in everything that we do, primarily from the Bioscience Core Skills Institute, also offering the base credential, which is a biotechnology aptitude and competency exam. And all of this is aligned with NIBRT credentials, which is what AstraZeneca and Lilly are really asking educational institutions to do. Okay, and then maybe, and then just I want to say a little bit about personnel. So in addition to moving me from professor of biology into this more administrative position, we've backfilled my position with a full-time employee. We are hiring a new 12-month hybrid faculty position. You can teach both credit and non-credit. And then I'm very excited that we have just recently hired a new hybrid faculty in advanced manufacturing. So if you guys haven't yet been over to see our advanced manufacturing floor at PVCC, it is mind-blowing. It's awesome. Picture robots and metal cutting machines. And this is a really important asset for companies like Afton that do fill finish. You may have heard that Eli Lilly will be doing end-to-end manufacturing. That means they will also do fill finish. AZ is talking about, Pharma 5.0, 6.0, whatever 0.0. It's going to be the most, advanced manufacturing, pharmaceutical manufacturing plant in the world. And, they're alluding to the fact that there's a lot of robotics, a lot of automation, a lot of AI. So I'm going to kind of, I think, end with that. And just, I assume that there are probably some questions that you may have to address them.
Before the EDA jumps in, just we're so excited to see PVCC really leading into a lot of the energy. The BioBridge study sort of gave us a roadmap of here's some things that we need to work on as a community to get ready. And they've just been such a great partner along the way. So we're just so glad to have them as a partner in this.
So the Commonwealth's been very aggressive in courting Lilly and AZ and the expansion, somebody's expanding in the
Merck.
valley, Merck, thank you. And they obviously realize the needs. So what is the last, what are we looking for out of the budget that they're hammering out these days?
Yeah, so I'll let
Because I would
Rebecca
think-
speak to that a little bit as well, but just briefly, I mean, we are very tight for space at PVCC, so I can get kind of creative for a year and a half or so in terms of scheduling rooms that we already have. We do not have a state-of-the-art facility, so I'll leave this with somebody here today, but we're hoping to build out something that has a simulation clean room. So if you picture anything you've ever seen where pretty much everything is white and stainless steel, this would not actually function as a clean room where you could make a pharmaceutical drug, but it would look and feel like that's the simulation part. And there'd be an entry, a tissue culture area where you grow cells and do your upstream processing, the downstream analytics, and then an exit. So it would look again and feel like that sort of positive pressure airlocked facility that you would see at Merck, Lilly, or AZ. And this is the type of asset that we really want to have for training, so students understand how to gown up, how to function with total aseptic control, and this would allow us to train those jobs.
Okay, so I guess my question then is, what did you ask for? Did you make a request of the governor's budget through the legislature? What is sort of out there?
We have about $7 million in grants currently that are pending. And one big chunk of that is the governor's laboratory school grant. So that is an initiative that is a college K-12 four-year institution, K-12 partnership. And that funding is actually a little bit in question, whether that's going to be pulled, the unobligated funds pulled from the governor's budget or not. So waiting kind of on pins and needles to find out what settles out with the budget. That proposal is in partnership with the University of Virginia Community Partnerships, Center for Community Partnerships, to develop a laboratory school in conjunction with Albemarle County Public Schools, Charlottesville City Schools, and Greene County Schools. We would serve 72 students, juniors and seniors a year once we ramp up within 2 years. For the pharmaceutical manufacturing and biotechnology career services, career studies certificates. So that is in question. Much of that would help to provide funding for faculty and some space build out. We have another pending grant that is a federal grant, but I think we're still waiting to see what is coming from state funding. What we do know is that there is the partnership with all of the companies that is putting together the advanced pharmaceutical manufacturing. Yes, that's the VIPC, BEDP-led advanced pharmaceutical manufacturing, or APM. It's, 130 million. Put that in air quotes because it's, an MOU. There's no money in the bank as far as I understand. But I think most of that will come to fruition, and they've just recently retained a consultant to manage those funds. We anticipate there will be an RFP coming out, and that is likely to be requiring a partnership between community college and four-year institutions. So obviously with VBA. So lots of different pieces. I think we're definitely still waiting to see what is going to be coming forth in the next round of budgets to be able to support ecosystem.
So just for clarification, so this is a new building on new land, new school?
Probably not.
Or are you using an existing building? And
Yeah, I think it would have to be an existing building to fit what we understand is the initial requirements of this MOU APM funding. So we've looked at North Fork. There's a lot of vacancy there, and that's clearly a strategic location with its proximity to the Siebel Biohub, CBPED, the Commonwealth Accelerator, et cetera, AC, obviously. We've also been in conversations with Mark Esser at Case Lockheed at UVA and his team, just to see if there's a possibility that we could co-locate. I think that's a little complex for many reasons, but I think it's still a possibility.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand. You said something about where they would get the credits for a 4-year degree, but PVCC already has that. Is it different, something different?
I think Rebecca was referring to if we receive funding for a laboratory school, that's a governor's laboratory school, it would serve juniors and seniors in high school. So they could get
So
college
not to be part of
certificates.
PVCC?
It would be, it's dual credit, so they would receive both high school credit and college credit simultaneously. Yeah, we're hopeful, but it did get a little caught up in the transition from Youngkin to Spanberger, so we just are waiting, and it went to reconciliation special sessions. Still waiting. It's been a wait.
And we hear from AstraZeneca about hundreds of positions.
Yes.
It's true.
Have you met with them yet, or is that in the works to get detail? What are those positions? What will those people do? What knowledge, skills, and abilities do they need to have? What competencies do they need to have so that you can grow a curriculum based on their job and their job performance, rather than pulling things off a shelf that already exist? The better way is to work from what do the employees end up doing?
Absolutely.
What math do they need? What computer skills? What lab skills? Communication skills? And build your curriculum from those competencies. Is that anywhere in the works?
Oh, yeah, and it's actually not quite as complex maybe as it seems like it could or could be. So President Runyon and Vice President Coniston and I met with some leaders from the Maryland group before Virginia really had people like a Virginia team at AZ. And then I met with folks from AZ in November when they came to BEDP. And I've spoken with a few of them by email since. Also on my advisory board is the founder and CEO of the Bioscience Core Skills Institute, who works directly with AZ in other locations. And folks have given me lots of advice who get from like Frederick and Montgomery College in Maryland. They're right there next to AZ, so I have their curricula as well. So I think the other thing to remember with AZ is they've changed their tune a couple of times in terms of exactly what technologies they're bringing to Albemarle. So we're still just, it's a little early, but we will be there to, to work with them. We're very excited about apprenticeships and our volume learner opportunities as well.
Are you familiar with a process called DACUM, DACUM, developing a curriculum? I have always found that is the best way to determine what employees do, what competencies they need, and then map that on.
And the state is working with AstraZeneca through their Talent Accelerator program, which is a workforce development and recruitment program that they offer out of the state to do that. So they'll send teams to facilities across the globe that are working on similar technologies to what will be at the Albemarle facilities, to document what those processes are, what the equipment is, what the folks who are doing that work already somewhere else are doing, and use that to build a custom training program that'll be more tailor purpose for that post-hire onboarding. And then the work that would be done at PVCC and other academic institutions across the Commonwealth, is sort of the more general, that would be widely applicable to those types of contexts.
We're not reinventing the wheel per se, right? I mean, it's been done in a lot of places, and so we've gotten a lot of good information from partners in the VCCS and from neighboring states, and really, frankly, across the country. Shoreline Community College in Washington State is amazing. They work very closely with the college, so none of this is really super brand new, but we will still, of course, customize and be iterative with all of our partners.
Hey, Emily, I have a question for you maybe. Can you refresh us on the timeline that you envision? Like AstraZeneca, Win, Merck, Lilly, I mean, what do you think, what's the timeline for all these?
To
new-
open the door.
Yeah, all these new, bioscience humans.
Yeah, they're all on a little bit of a different timeline, but roughly, between late and I would say very late 2028.
Okay.
At the very earliest, and then really extending through and thinking about Merck and Lilly, not just AstraZeneca, really extending through 2031, 2032 is the window of when they're going to be opening their doors and really ramping up, going from testing into production. There's a fairly long lead time on the regulatory side when you open a new pharmaceutical manufacturing facility to get all the FDA clearances that you need to be able to really move into full scale production. And so there's a period of time where they probably will have a smaller workforce in place as they're working through calibrating all the equipment and going through that FDA regulatory process. So
Just
it's a
theoretically,
ramp up.
just theoretically, so 2030.
2030 is probably when you're going to see the lion's share.
This biotech will be the #1 driver in our county, right? By then, by far.
Probably.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I was hoping Matthew might stay because I went to a conference last Tuesday all about tanks and pipes and plumbing and valves and instrumentation. But really what it was about was those sensors that you could see in a winery, but you could also see in a clean room pharmaceutical manufacturing plant. Those sensors have lots of wires. And here's a term that you should never forget: electronic marshalling. It's basically how you solve your cords problems. You have all these cords and they come in and they get organized and they're the inputs, and then you have fewer output cords that come to a terminal, where an operator, which is going to be about 60% of these jobs, Frank, are going to be at the operator level, is taking all of that real-time information from the sensors, pH, pressure, dissolved oxygen, etc., and they're making decisions in real time. And I have to say that these old folks, because a lot of them were really in the seasoned part of their career, floored me. And they said, we're using AI swarms and agentic data. And they had the most sophisticated AI I've ever seen to process that information and surface and facilitate those real-time decisions. And AstraZeneca will be doing a lot of that. So it's a software called Delta V. We hope to offer that kind of ancillary type of programming as well at PVCC. Oh, and then the best part was at lunchtime, someone came up to me and said, Professor Allison. And sure enough, they took my biotech course at PVCC when I was an adjunct instructor in 2008, I believe. And they're pretty high up at Merck now, and I didn't even know it. So we've connected, and that's just one more.
Nice.
It's great.
When will you be able to give us an update, like if state funding comes through and everything like that? This is our future. This is great.
Happens in the governor's laboratory school this Thursday or Friday. So, and then we've also applied for NSF funding. I've recently reached out to our program officer. We should hear, because that was a September submission. We really should have heard by now, but the NSF is on a different timeline these days.
Or at least let Emily know, and then she can report back.
Yeah, keep you posted with all of our
Schedule
updates.
Yes.
The match opportunity, I'm sure we'll be back.
Excellent. All right.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and I'm like, we don't know how that slide got to sing. Okay, all right. So I'm gonna tee this next one up. This is the local grant match request for the Small Community Air Service Development Program grant that came in through Charlottesville Albemarle Airport, and was the item that we added to the agenda in the meeting earlier today. Ethan Birch from Cho is also here to help with Q&A if you have any questions. But really, this is about this idea of a Charlottesville to Boston route to add to the 5 routes that are currently have direct air service from Cho. there's a lot of excitement in a couple areas of the community. A lot of energy from the biotech life sciences sector in our region because Boston is a big biotech life sciences hub, and a lot of the universities in the Boston area. There are just a lot of universities in the Boston area, and they all have many of them have very strong biotech life sciences programs as well. So there is sort of a cluster of companies, of entrepreneurial opportunities, of large anchor companies that are located in Boston, research universities that might have R&D partnership opportunities. There's also venture capital, sort of a cluster of venture capital in the Boston area that is very interested in funding biotech life sciences companies. And they're interested in looking beyond just the Boston region for their next big thing. And there's also not a great opportunity for some tourism, some two-way tourism as well. So folks from here going up to Boston and sort of northward, as well as folks from Boston coming down to the Charlottesville area. And so there's been a lot of interest, a lot of energy. This has been on, maybe the top 3 most requested places for direct service for quite some time. And things seem to be aligning in a way that there's an opportunity to go for that formally. CHO has been working to look at different ways to go about petitioning for that service. And there's a US DOT grant that helps to provide financial assistance to small communities on a competitive basis to help them enhance their air service that they believe would be a way to help attract service providers for that route. The grant is on a reimbursable basis. This was used by CHO back in 2007 for Chicago to get the initial Chicago service. And the airport reached out to us to seek local grant match support for the application. That one helps just make the grant application more attractive to USDOT because it is a competitive grant program. And so demonstrated local support is a thing that they look at as they're evaluating all the applications that they see, as well as demonstrating just the committed level of enthusiasm to the idea, because that often then translates into people in seats on those planes when that service is launched. And so it's a nice way to demonstrate that interest. As was noted earlier, the grant was thought to have gone up in September. It came out at the end of March and is due May 4th. So that is the short turnaround time on the request. So there has been a cash match request by the airport to Albemarle County. And in line with how the county can and often does do grant matches, we're bringing the request to the EDA because the EDA has authority to direct Economic Development Fund funds to grant matches that would support economic development purposes. And some of the rationale for why this sort of fits into an economic development ask is that it would support the life sciences, which is a target sector of ours. They've been CVille BioHub has been sort of leading a charge to get the biotech companies to help demonstrate support for this. And in the newly adopted Economic Development Strategic Plan, there is a very specific item about partnering with utilities and the airport to deliver infrastructure for industrial growth. So the staff recommendation is a contribution of $15,000 from the Economic Development Fund contingent on USDOT to CHO. And the idea would be that this would be for use as a minimum revenue guarantee as needed for the future air service provider. That's my last slide. It is. So with that, I'll turn it back to the chair for.
And I'll ask the CEO of the airport if he'd like to make any additional comments.
And I will say that I leave for Boston tomorrow to meet with some airlines. And Emily, we take off at 7. I need you there for me. It was excellent. You did a great job. Never had to talk so less. Never come to a place they didn't want me to talk, I guess. No, absolutely right. Surprised by it coming out in April. We were really working towards getting out into the community up until September. The thing that you have to remember is it's a small community grant. The DOT reads this as it's coming from the community and not from CHO per se. We are an airport authority, so we have the ability to manage it. However, we've got to tell a really good story. The Chicago service that we did get many years ago was my first successful route as an air service development marketing guy, but we took what was one small 44-seat jet and we turned it into what will become 5 daily flights to Chicago starting in a couple months. That's what the DOT wants to see. So our story is perfect. We have business travel demands. I think I found a way to get some drinkers down here from New England. And I think they're going to biotech connection somewhere around here. We can be the answer for all your problems. We can get that direct flight. So we appreciate anything that you can do. This is definitely something that I do apologize to everyone that we're coming in sort of in between two periods of time, but we won't know exactly how much to write the grant for until we know how much cash support we're going to get. That cash support only comes to us if we are awarded the grant and then the airline starts the service and then it does not make an agreeable amount of money over a period of 18 to 24 months. So we won't really be spending that money until that point, but we would probably put it into an escrow of some sort if we did get awarded the grant. So that's what it is. Right now, 500,000 was how much we asked for back in the Chicago days. And we are trying to be uber aggressive and go for what is the expected amount to be about 750,000 to $1 million this time. Again, speaking with Delta, American, JetBlue, and anyone else who wants to listen, that's a nice little piece of money that kind of gives them a security blanket to start service. I appreciate your time.
Any questions for Jason?
When we were at the research park, you made a comment that I thought was really interesting about how much economic
Yes.
does it pump into the county?
That's right. So one segment, so one round trip on an annual basis is about $21 million of local economic impact. So when we lose service, it hurts too. Like when we lost Philly, that's what we felt like. But that's any of our routes that are coming from the major cities such as Boston.
Could you repeat that statistic, please?
One round trip segment, we call it, annually is $21 million of economic impact.
Do you think that losing Philly helps here?
It absolutely does. And I think you might have been familiar with the last grant because we have to tell a story, kind of the need, which we do have one. Boston on its own is now at a point. We served about 17,000 passengers to Boston, but we have about 40,000 people from our community driving a round show to go somewhere else to get to Boston. And the airlines need to see about 50,000 to make them see a successful route. So we're right in that market. Losing Philly is actually a good opportunity for us to talk about what COVID did to us. And we do believe there was a lot of American and US Airway merger issues, but Philly itself is kind of a challenging airport. But yeah, we'll absolutely use that as a part of our story. Yes.
Just anecdotally, my sister lives in Boston. We always fly from Richmond because it's nonstop.
Right. That's right. And we know that. So you're one of those 40,000.
Yeah, but it's a nonstop flight.
When you think about you going to Richmond and spending your money in Richmond, and think about everyone, all 40,000, that's a lot of money we bring back into our own community.
No doubt.
Is there data about flyers that maybe go to Charlotte and then to Boston? Like, would you have that data to say like, okay, that we could increase that with a nonstop to maybe bring in more into the pool?
We do. We don't use it. We have a little bit of numbers. There are people that will fly south to go north. It's not quite as dramatic as that 40,000 that we know going to other airports. It does dip into the idea that we will, in a kind of a way, will cannibalize some of our own directs if we take them and get them direct. So for example, LaGuardia.
Sure. So
LaGuardia is the biggest way that people will get into because there's a 30-minute ferry flight out of LaGuardia to Boston every day. So we want those numbers to kind of stay the same. But yes, there's a good number that we can use as well.
All right. Is there a motion?
I move that this authority authorize the chair to sign a letter of support from the Albemarle County Economic Development Authority to the United States Department of Transportation in support of the Charlottesville-Albemarle Airport Authority's application to the Small Community Air Service Development Program and approves the approbation of $15,000 in matching funds to the Charlottesville-Albemarle Airport Authority if the Airport Authority is awarded the grant to be used as a minimum revenue guarantee to attract new direct air service between Charlottesville and Boston.
Second?
Second.
Okay. Further discussion? All right. Call roll. Aye. Justin.
Aye.
Aye.
Director Cox. Director Storm.
Aye. All right. Motion carries. Sign the letter. Good deal. All right.
All right. Sabu, gonna hit this slide for us.
Sure, good afternoon. So following our, development of business plan for strategic economic development plan. So we had a series of, brainstorming session, and we come up with a set of, catalytic project ideas. So we believe that these ideas will, accelerate the economic growth in the county and, strengthen our competitive position in the county as well. For today's, we'll be touching on these concepts only, but in May, you will have a dedicated agenda to dig deeper in every idea, and then you'll have the opportunity to recommend these for further exploration. So out of these 6 ideas, we thought it's a good, mixture of, strategic project and as well as a quick one. So namely, we thought as, site readiness effort would be a great idea to further explore this. Of course, it will be done by public-private partnership. Sharing space for agriculture-based businesses or equipment, that's another idea. And then EDA branding or public relation or PR marketing, that's another idea. A cluster-based approach for any specific, sector in the county, that's another idea that we thought is worth exploring. And then, of course, site development strategy to look beyond what is currently available in the development pipeline. And then, of course, access to finance for small businesses, which should make it affordable for business to afford those loans. So these are a couple of ideas we thought is worth exploring in your next meetings.
So the idea would be, maybe we can send these out to everybody.
No, we plan to send it out after today.
So the idea is gonna be that we want people to think about these ideas, but also think about other ideas. Thought it was helpful to have some ideas to kind of get people thinking about it and really, how do we want to implement this? What are potential projects for implementing the work that we had done?
Do we have a list of sites in the county and their tiers, like the development tiers?
Not right now.
Okay.
There's a couple of lists that we have. I would say all of them are out of date and none of them hit that sort of specificity of taking the state has a tier 1 through 5 scale that they've worked with the private sector to help develop. We do not have a list of sites matched tiers in the way that you're probably thinking. Yeah. That's work that we're actively seeking to sort of scope right now to get an understanding of what that would cost.
Sure.
And if we could initiate one of those.
Didn't CVPED do that about 3 or 4 years ago?
They didn't do a comprehensive evaluation of sites. I think localities were able, that was before my time, but my understanding is localities were able to identify a handful of sites and then get site characterization reports for them. So that was sort of localities bringing forward specific sites that they already had in mind, and then getting a robust analysis of what the current tier is and what the steps would need to be taken to get that site to a higher tier. This is sort of the inverse where you would hire a firm to say, looking at zoning and proximity to highways and rail and comp plan and wetlands and all sorts of criteria that businesses look at when they're making site selection choices. It's kind of a computer analysis to say, here are the best parcels for, based on the criteria that you put in, and you can toggle sort of baseline criteria. So like only industrial zoning of a certain size with certain proximity to a highway interchange. And then you can sort of add on, criteria factors that would apply to different sectors. So, a high water user industry or a logistics wants to be even closer to a highway interchange than more of a traditional manufacturer. And so you can get sort of different grains of analysis. What they can do right now is really cool.
Do you have like a kind of an overview of the objectives of this project to kind of get a better in preparation for next month's
Yeah,
meeting?
so
It feels like very broad and, is it so can come in more prepared?
So we'll send out with the packet for next time, and we don't have to wait for the packet. We can send it earlier than that. Is the implementation memo that Civic Soul put together for the EDA that sort of teed up this idea of catalytic projects. And then this was just sort of a staff brainstorm of, instead of giving you all a blank sheet of paper and say, how would you like to be catalytic today? We had some staff conversations of just trying to come up with, there's some things that you could think about and you all might say, this list is not right. But it got us thinking, and here's some things that we think we want to pursue. But there's sort of a tee up of the scope in the Civic Soul memo from earlier this year.
And if this is out of scope and not the way it works, let me know. But we had this gentleman speak for the public on, having more essentially recreation and things like that, which is true. I mean, a lot of people that Ravanna Trail and all the fishing and other things people come here to see is I didn't understand if there was a specific ask on that. It didn't sound like there was, but are those type of things taken into consideration in something like this, or only like the business? I guess I'm not really understanding the scope of what we would be looking at.
Yeah, so I think it's connected all back to the strategic plan. And there are elements of placemaking in the strategic plan. So I think the idea is that these would be catalytic projects that the EDA would want to back. That would be for implementing the strategic plan. So I think, anything, we would sort of look to the strategic plan for what the bounds of activity would look like. But this is, the idea is these are catalytic projects that the EDA could support. And so the EDA has the ability to support any projects that feel like would be of benefit.
Yeah, I mean, this is really more of a brainstorming by us to say, okay, we think catalytic projects, what kind of projects could we do that agribusinesses are? Do we want to buy a piece of equipment that will help farmers do better things or help more farmers, those kinds of things? Which of these ideas or some other? So it could be really anything that we think, because we feel we want to take advantage and how do we spend the money that we have? What are ways to do it and think about it?
It's great.
Staff report, okay. So this is just a review, high-level review of the business retention and expansion activity that we've had since it happened about a month ago. We actually, Chair Long and Ashley and I went to Beacon Hill Kitchen earlier today, so one of those two is that. But just a good connection with our target sectors as well as some complementary sectors. With the AstraZeneca news continuing to be very exciting for many, we get a lot. I think we're fielding a lot more inquiries from complementary sectors that would help with their. There's a perceived overlap in the work that they do and the work that AstraZeneca will do in our community, which is exciting. There's been a lot of events the past couple weeks. It's spring, so everyone is excited to be out in the community together. We celebrated the ribbon cutting with some of you and the Governor Spanberger and her team at Agrispheres last week. just a great story. The EDA has been supporters of Agrispheres and their expansion work. They're now filling commercial orders, which is really exciting for their business. That transition point from R&D and building a product to actually selling a product. And so we could not be more excited for them and their success in the county. There's been a lot of events sort of statewide. There's some pictures here from the Virginia Economic Developers Association quarterly meeting. That quarterly meeting was significant because it was the first time that our association had an opportunity to hear from the new members of the new administration about what their priorities are. I think we heard a lot of where commitments have been made to companies. The administration wants to keep those in place and not back away from those. It's just creating stability in the business environment so that folks have good expectations of if Virginia said we would support it, we're going to continue to support it. The National Security Data and Policy Institute, which we've talked about before as being an exciting contract opportunity between the Director of National Intelligence Office and the University of Virginia. They held what they called their first annual conference a couple weeks ago. It was really content rich, really great speakers. They set a really high bar for that event, and we look forward to attending again next year. Another first inaugural, everyone's trying to do their first inaugural. That was really exciting, and I'll highlight is at the bottom there, the Virginia Defense Forum. There's a national organization, the Association of Defense Communities, that serves communities that have bases across the country and ways for the government and local governments to work together. This is the first time that there was a Virginia-focused event associated with the ADC organization. And so a lot of really great conversations about how you can be a good neighbor, how you can be a good partner with federal installation in your community. Several folks wondered what Albemarle's military base was. And so it was a good educational opportunity for us. And a lot of really good conversations. Exactly. And a lot of really good opportunities for us to hear from some of our peers about what they're doing. And I think it gave us some good ideas for things that we could do to, again, just be a good neighbor as we think of Urbana Station as an important anchor in our economy. The VEDP through a boot camp class for economic developers who are interested in the life sciences sector, which was a really great event that a lot of folks from our region went and attended. Thinking about the big announcements of the fall probably will create opportunities for supply chain competitors, some of those companies for the Commonwealth. And how we can be sort of more ready partners for those opportunities as they come up. You want to talk about town hall?
Sure. We wrapped up budget town halls. All staff supported the county executive office to speak to the public about the framework around the budget as it approaches hopeful approval soon. But tomorrow, great. So we'll know. And then on the right, there's just a photo from the Charlottesville Business Innovation Council Innovation Mixer that's held every second Tuesday at the Omni at 5.
It took me about 4 times looking at that photo to realize that's inside the Omni atrium and not an outdoor event. There's so much going on in the future. Tom Tom Festival starts tomorrow. There's Economic Development Week is the national celebration of economic development as a practice. So I hope you'll celebrate with us on LinkedIn from May 4th to May 8th. It's going to be a blast. Also upcoming, the annual CVIC Gala Awards Gala will be held downtown this year at the Code Building. Some folks will be there. Other folks may be with us in Chapel Hill for the Chamber Intercity trip, where we'll have some really focused conversations. I think the county is excited to participate in this because we're making some good connections with the local governments in that area to hear how they work together to support their regional economy and some of the infrastructure that helps support that. And then Director Cox has volunteered to be the judge at this year's Piedmont Ascent Business Conference on behalf of the county.
They choose to fill.
We appreciate your service. Um, I had a warning about Mr. Krebs's comments at the beginning of the meeting from my colleague in the city, Chris Engel. He shared that the Charlottesville EDA, following that public comment at their meeting last week, said, please work with the county to see if we can't get a joint meeting together to talk about that and other potential topics. So right now the proposal is to use Albemarle's September meeting date, which is September the 15th. So that should already be on your calendar. But that the city would host it. And they normally do their meetings in city space in the Market Street Garage building. And that we would talk about outdoor potential opportunity to collaborate on outdoor recreation opportunities, as well as the Innovation Corridor Strategic Roadmap report should be coming out really soon. The first the first presentation of it that is not, I don't think it's fully public, is Friday. And as soon as we have a shareable document, we'll make sure that we make you aware of that. And the purpose of that joint meeting would be a presentation for the city and the county to hear about that together. And then I think we would love to have some discussion following that on areas where you all see some good strategic overlap.
You mentioned bringing in UVA. Is there an opportunity to bring in UVA's economic development group to that meeting? Since it's a joint meeting?
We can look at that.
So they can like invite Pace and.
Yeah. We can look at that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, can you repeat? I'm sorry.
Oh, so Peter had suggested that UVA might be a important stakeholder in a joint conversation. So, so we can take that as a follow up to see if we can get that to work too. And with that, I'm clicking my button.
All right.
That brings us to closed session.
Okay, so I move that the Economic Development Authority convene a closed meeting pursuant to section 2.2-3711A of Virginia with the subsection discuss legal counsel to the. You have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Not Brian.
That's why I was asking.
Sorry.
No problem.
We have a 12-step number. Everybody here? If they go apologize if you've ever seen this.
All the important ones.
All right. I move that the Economic Development Authority certify that the employer group is to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from its open meeting requirements of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act and identified in the motion authorizing the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered in the closed meeting. On the roll.
A second.
Good.
And yes, call.
Aye.
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 All right, so I make a motion. The already authorized the chairman to engage or negotiate and engage Sands Anderson as counsel for the authority. Is there a second?
Is bond counsel.
On council.
On counsel.
Unless you want to fire me, in which case that's a larger conversation.
We need a roll call vote.
No, I don't think you need
All
that.
right. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Okay. And that is it. Our next meeting is May 19th. Thanks, everybody. Just,
What?
think catalytically.
Analytically, yeah.
Analytically, though.